The Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast, starts now.
I can't hear you.
There we go. I was muted.
Yeah.
Let me start over. So welcome back, everybody, to the Liverpool Reaction. Little technical difficulties on my end. This is an American LFC podcast. I'm joined by always Coach, my co-host, Coach Ralph. Coach, Liverpool crashed out of the Champions League, but could be maybe a blessing in disguise. I know losing in that competition isn't necessarily something that you could kind of describe that way. 120 minutes and PKs, very, very high intensity type of game. But Dembele gets an early goal against the run of play, and PSG kind of held on. I mean, they played well, but they held on. And then extra time, they had a couple chances, and then PKs. Donnarumma is almost undefeated in PKs, and I knew we were in trouble when we got to that point.
Well, let me be clear on one thing. The reason that Liverpool lost was because I didn't see any of the game. Unfortunately, I'm in season now with my teams, and I just didn't see any of it today. So I have watched highlights, and by all accounts, it was a really good game. And if Arne Slot is saying after all his years in the game that it's the best game he's ever been involved in, then I think that kind of tells its own tale. So a good game. Disappointing if you're a Liverpool fan. I mean, but to be fair, clearly PSG are a very high quality team. They were very impressive in Paris. And from what I saw of the highlights and everything, they were impressive again.
Yeah, they're a very good team. They're by far the best team that we've played this year. And Luis Enrique made an interesting comment saying that the winner of this tie is going to make it to the finals, which is an interesting prediction. But that PSG team has players all over the place. Their midfield is excellent. Mendes, kind of kept Salah in check, although Salah did have a chance early in the game to score. And it's the first team that I've seen to completely give Liverpool fits. I mean, from a standpoint of just high press, they always seem to be in the right place. They're obviously very well coached. They have a very good front line. It's a good team. It's a good team. And that's something that I kept telling myself, and I was on a text thread with a couple friends. I'm like, this is a good team. Like, this is not, a team that's getting lucky or anything like that. This team could really make a lot of noise in the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we knew even before the tie that there were maybe 3 or 4 teams that were likely winners, and unfortunately, Liverpool drew one of them, which was PSG. And they've certainly come good at the right time. They look powerful, well-balanced team, quality players, and if they keep it going, they will take some stopping.
Coach, at the beginning of the game, Liverpool, it looked like a Klopp team. High press. They started to make PSG look like PSG made us look in Paris. They were kicking the ball out of bounds. They were the press was on. A couple chances. I mentioned a Mo Salah chance that 9 times out of 10 he scores, but Mendes got his leg in the way.
There were 2 chances from what I saw where he really might have scored, and by all accounts he didn't really have a good game overall again. So I mean, Salah, Salah right now seems to have gone off the boil. And I think we talked about this a little bit in the previous podcast, where he seems to run out of gas later in the season. So, let's hope it's not the case. Certainly with Sunday in mind, but yeah, I mean, pretty much what I'm hearing is that he just didn't do much. He had two great chances early, and that was about it.
Well, he had one in the second half too, off a corner kick that Donnarumma got. Like Donnarumma kept coming out to punch balls out, but there was a lot of congestion in that area. And one time he just barely got it, and it fell to Salah, and he just hit it first time.
Mm-hmm.
But the Georgian fellow, who we're not going to try to pronounce his name, got in the way and knocked it off the line. If he wasn't there, that
right,
yeah,
yeah,
that was a goal.
Talking about yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize that was Salah. I thought it was somebody else. But yeah. So he had a quiet game, and by all accounts, really, all of the forwards had a quiet game, and so maybe they've run out of gas a little bit, or maybe PSG was very good defensively. Maybe a little bit of both. So
yeah.
So yeah.
I think, this type of team, and if we played them, say, 10 times, I think each team would win 5. I think it was that like well balanced. We were giving them fits early, they were giving us fits, and then in the second half for about 20 minutes, we really kind of took control of the game and were pushing them back. But in extra time, I mean, there was only going to be one winner if there was a winner, and that was PSG. I mean, they missed 2. I mean, just on the other side of the post, just missed on 2 chances. And the commentators made a statement about Donnarumma has won 4 out of 5 shootouts, penalty kick shootouts. And I was like, oh man, I remember against England, he did it. And he's a big goalie. He had a pretty good game. And then Mo Salah scored. And then when Darwin stepped up, coach, I was hoping and praying, but deep down in my gut, I was like, he's not going to put this away. This is a high pressure situation. But kudos to Donnarumma, kudos to PSG, kudos to Luis Enrique. They really they really played very, very well over the 2 ties. And I don't think as fans we can be disappointed about the result, but as far as the team that beat us, I think we can kind of say that we're okay with it.
Yeah, it was a good team. So I think there's never any shame if you go out to a good team playing well. So there'll always be a level of disappointment, but yeah, PSG I think have a great chance of winning it.
Coach, Trent came in on a flying tackle in the second half and twisted his ankle. He did not continue to play. I once, when I was playing in my late 20s in a league, I saw somebody do something similar and break his ankle. And if that shoe got caught just another second, he would have landed on it, and it would have happened to him as well. But it twisted and it got out of his way. But he's out now. I mean, twisted ankles they're high ankle sprains. I mean, they're tough to come back from.
Right. I mean, I've not heard much about the injuries. Just as both he and Kanate had to go off.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, if it's a twisted ankle, yeah, it could be difficult for him in terms of Sunday. And Kanate, I've heard it suggested that it was more to do with cramping up than anything else. But again, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. In the second half, we did have some chances. And when Trent went out, in came number 78, the big boy. And he Kwanzaa, yeah, and on a
He hit,
cross,
yeah.
headed it, hit the post, and a fraction the other way, it's a goal. But it just kind of bounced across, and for some reason they called offsides. I'm not sure why they did.
It was off the initial play. I mean, Kwanzaa's goal wouldn't have counted either, because it's it's when the ball's played out to the left, and I don't know who the player is, but he's just offside. It's not. It's not a huge amount, but it's not a toenail or anything like that. I mean, like you can see visually that he's offside.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, we definitely had chances to win it. So did they. I think at the end of the day it was a coin flip, and that's why I went to PKs. But
well, there was one outstanding save I thought that Donnarumma made, and I don't know who the header was from, but with the ball
from Diaz.
Was it Diaz? Yeah, the ball bounced high, and I thought that was a really good save.
He played well.
Yeah, he
played well. Coach, now the Champions League is, the campaign is over. FA Cup is over. How quickly can this team rebound for Sunday's Cup game against the Carabao Cup after playing against PSG tonight and having a realistic chance to win, but also, just not winning? And how do you regroup, and how do you get yourself back into the mindset to play for another cup?
Well, this is where things like personality and character come into it, because it'll be a huge disappointment. Liverpool went into the game with an advantage. They were playing at home in front of the fans, European nights, and everything that goes along. And at the end of the day, they didn't get the result. So I think psychologically that's something that they have to come back from. Also, as well, there will be a measure of fatigue, both physically and mentally, from the game. 120 minutes plus penalty kicks, and kind of the impression I get was that Liverpool were tired in extra time. Like they didn't do as much. Like they had a good second half, but they didn't do much in the extra time. And so I don't know, again, whether that's a measure of tiredness. And I mean, like they certainly subbed, but for whatever reason, this game, the subs, whilst they've made the difference in some of Liverpool's recent games, it didn't really make much of an impact this time. So yeah, I mean, like there's a lot for the manager in terms of raising the squad again, raising the morale after a long game that's ended in a disappointing result. So yeah, he's got work to do, but on the other side of the coin, we're talking about an experienced squad. They've been there before, they've done it before, and I think they have a good leader in Van Dijk, and so hopefully they can regroup. So they'll be doing recovery certainly tomorrow, and maybe even the day afterwards after a game like that, and mentally starting to look at the PSG game. What did they do well? Where did they fall a little bit short? And what do they take into the next game? So yeah. I mean, I'm anticipating a good game on Sunday. I think Newcastle is an excellent team on their day. I think they'll be up for it. They have players out. They have who is it? Is it Botman's
Gordon
out? Hall is out, and obviously Gordon. So yeah, I mean, like they're a little short-handed as well, and Liverpool now maybe have some injuries. So there's that side of the coin. But yeah, I mean, it's a final. So hopefully that doesn't take too much motivation to get the team up again.
I think the fact that Slot said that's one of the best games he's been a part of, I think the message probably in the locker room was probably very similar from a standpoint of hey, keep your heads up. You played well. It was a tough match, and we go again on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
When the Anfield is, so many incredible nights there. Borussia Dortmund in the Europa Cup, Barcelona. Obviously, we've had a lot of moments in that stadium, and when you play so many games and you have moments, sometimes those moments go against you every now and again. And I think as fans, we tend to forget that as well. And one thing that kind of comes to mind is, it's not soccer related, it's baseball, but when the Yankees were up 3-0 on the Red Sox in 2004, they were the only team ever to lose a 3-0 lead in the playoffs, but the Yankees are one of the most storied franchises in baseball, and they've won a lot. And I think sometimes just these things happen, especially when you're in these situations often. And it's okay. It's okay. I was a little bit irritated after the game because I wanted my team to win. We obviously wanted them to win, but at the end of the day, we have a lot of memories from this club, and this team is in very good position for the Premier League and a cup final on Sunday. We'll be dancing soon enough.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've seen a couple of things, and some of the responses. I mean, to be fair, everybody I've seen, has acknowledged that PSG was excellent. So I think that's good, because it's keeping things in perspective. And of course, we're already getting a thing about signings and all this kind of stuff. And I just wish, obviously, Liverpool will need to make some signings. And I think Arne Slot will be in a position now to know where he needs to get players, maybe who leaves, who comes in. And I think that they will be buying players through the summer. And just because you buy players doesn't automatically mean that things are going to be better instantly.
Right.
I mean, again, I'm sure we'll hear this on kind of the build up to Newcastle, because it seems like all of Liverpool's injuries are in defence right now. So you could potentially have both your right backs out. And then if Konate's injured, you've got Gomez injured. So Liverpool's injuries are primarily at the back. But again, it comes down to, and it's the same issue with Arsenal. Like, they lost all their strikers, but I mean, how many strikers or how many defenders can you afford to keep during a season? Because I mean, like, you're going to get injuries, but you can't keep everybody happy. And as we've said before, I think that what happened this year was that between Richard Hughes and Arne Slot, like they looked at the squad, and I'm sure Slot had some initial impressions, and then they talked about, well, where do we need to strengthen? And clearly there weren't a lot of players around that kind of filled the bill. So obviously there was Zubamendi, and I think the manager and then the director of football were on board with that, but then that didn't work out. So do they just sign any old player then next? And we talked about this before. I don't think that Liverpool have that kind of model. And they had Endo. I think he could have maybe used Endo a little bit more. I mean, because Gravenberch hasn't been quite at the level as he was earlier in the season. And if Salah doesn't end up coming back, I mean, one thing that I can't help but wonder about is, I mean, whether Liverpool win or lose on Sunday, then we kind of have the wind down to the season. And unless there's something very, very dramatic, Liverpool are going to take the title. So how will the manager how will a manager manage the squad through the remainder of the season? My guess is that he might want to give some more time, and I think one of the problems that Mo Salah might potentially have in the future is, whilst he's very productive, he always wants to play. He always wants to play, and I think that you can project that each year that he stays on, maybe it'll go down a little bit in terms of the level. And like I said, an incredible year this year. I'd be surprised if he was to be at that level next year.
Same.
Because, I'm sure that you can still score a good number of goals and set people up and everything. But the point that I'm trying to make in a roundabout way is that the older he gets, he's going to have to fit into the squad more. And I don't know whether his personality allows that. And that might be a problem for Liverpool in terms of keeping him on for longer. So, of course, we don't know all the answers here. Maybe he is going, or maybe he's already signed a contract, but it just hasn't been announced. But, I mean, I guess that's just me looking at the situation, because he does take managing. I mean, like, he's the one player on the squad, he's a good guy, but he does have a little bit of an ego. And I can't see that so much in any of the other players who are on the team.
Yeah, and news came out right before the game that his agent offered Mo Salah's services to Barcelona for next year, which was kind of strange timing, very strange timing. Now, I don't know if it's posturing, if it's true, if the agent's just trying to kind of get some traction on a contract here. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that did kind of pop up today at some point. And Coach, knowing FSG, knowing the way they do things, knowing the structure, knowing, how they kind of, they use different models of statistics with, and just not necessarily wanting to sign older players or re-signing them if they're on the team. I don't know how they're going to convince themselves to break this structure that they have to sign Mo Salah, because not only is, we kind of mentioned he's a little off the boil right now, but is it just another drop in level now? Or is it, we kind of talked about it again, on our last podcast, or is it just, this is his level now, or it's just a little blip? But I think they're going to look at everything. They're very fiscally responsible. We're never going to be in trouble with financial fair play. We'll never get 115 charges against us. And I think from that standpoint, it could be an end of an era.
Yeah, if you're talking about Salah leaving, yes, but I would like to think that if they are allowing Salah to go, that they've got somebody else lined up to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if they do, whoever it is will be under pressure. Like, there'll be expectations. But I mean, ever since I've supported Liverpool, I mean, when I think back to the 70s. I mean, the early part of the 70s, Kevin Keegan was the star of the team. And then Keegan wanted to go and play in Europe. And so, like, that was a significant loss. But then they signed Kenny Dalglish. So, and I mean, it's always been the way. I mean, Ray Clements, Graham Souness, like, they left. Later on in the Premier League era, you had Steve McManaman, Michael Owen. Players who left, they weren't at their peak, and they were top players for the team, and it kind of goes on to Fernando Torres and Luis Suarez. So, I mean, like, you're always going to lose your stars, I think I think Liverpool has has a better system than many of the peer clubs. When you look at the mess at Manchester United, for example. But at the same time, if they are to lose the three players, Trent, Van Dijk, and Salah, I think that leaves an absolutely massive hole. And obviously, the way that football is now, with social media and podcasts, like ours, and yeah, I mean, they will come under a lot of pressure. I mean, because they're giving up on a lot of players. But broadly speaking, I think that Liverpool has had an issue for years in terms of contracts. Because if you think back, Emre Can, Gini Wijnaldum, they both ran down their contracts and then they left. And so from a business perspective, you could say, well, was that good? Because, like they could have got decent money for them. And I understand that part of the reason for that was because of Jurgen Klopp. Like he wanted the players and they couldn't agree new contracts, or they weren't offered new contracts, and they moved along. So they've kind of changed the system a little bit, in as much as that Arne Slot isn't a manager; he's a coach. And I mean, like, he's going to have input, because I'm sure,
of course,
having seen the way that he is, I don't think he would have taken the job if he doesn't have any input. But then at the end of the day, it'll be up to Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards to take care of contracts. And so I think from a wider perspective, they can't keep allowing all these players to run down contracts. So that's something that the club has to figure out.
Coach, Van Dijk's leadership is probably worth just that alone another 2-year contract, don't you think? Just from a leadership standpoint alone.
In a funny way, I think he would be the hardest of the three to replace.
Yeah.
And it is because of qualities he has. He's a dominating defender, and he has a lot of leadership. He's the captain of the team. He's an imposing figure. And I think he would be the hardest of the three to replace. I mean, Trent isn't your normal fullback. And if he leaves for Real Madrid, as seems likely, then they will probably look to sign somebody at right fullback. But they do have Bradley there, Conor Bradley. So I mean, like, he's an excellent player, style. But I don't think that they're going to get a like for like replacement for Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah. I think, when the season is finished, done and dusted, and Coach, you and I can really kind of dive deeper into the positions that we need and potential players across England and Europe that could, fit the bill as far as replacements. Obviously, Trent is a unicorn from a standpoint of you can literally play the game through him and he can make things happen like a central midfielder would. So it's a very unique player. But I think you're right that Van Dijk would be the hardest. And I just think his leadership alone is just worth a contract for him, assuming that the numbers, make sense and it's not outrageous per week. But I think he's the one at the end of the day that we need to keep us moving into a new phase, into a new regime, so to speak, but with him guiding everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we have Newcastle Sunday. Let's get behind the team. This stings, but it's okay. We have a 15-point lead in the Premier League, and we have a final on Sunday. We take a cup home on Sunday. We'll feel a lot better, and then assuming everything goes as it should in the Premier League, then we will have another Premier League to celebrate. And really, at the end of the day, Coach, that's probably the number one title that if we had to choose, that's the one we wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, and especially because the last Premier League title was during COVID. So one thing that I hope that they do is when they do the bus tour of the city with the trophy. I would like to think that they would invite back Klopp and some of the players from that team that have left, because it kind of makes up because they just couldn't do it back then.
Yeah. Well, everybody, Coach and I will be back on Sunday or Monday at the latest to discuss the Newcastle game. We have very important cup game, obviously, against Newcastle. Let's go ahead and finish the week with a bang, and the month, really, because then we're on an international break, and we're not back till the beginning of April. So everybody, keep your heads up, smile. It's okay. We are going to be fine. Tough loss, but we have Newcastle and then the league, and we are going to do a very, very interesting summer, obviously, with what's going to happen with Mo and VVD and also Trent. But keep your heads up, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching or listening on the podcast, and we are excited to talk about the Newcastle game on Sunday. I rambled a little bit there, but I'm trying to gather my thoughts a little bit after I started on mute to start this podcast. Anyway, take care, everybody.
Okay, bye now.